Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for September Accessibility Month, a month of free education featuring ASL interpretation and closed captioning. Our webinar topic today is Workplace Accessibility Grant Info Session, presented by Bridget Field, along with our ASL interpreters, Sarah and Jamie, as well as on-screen closed captioning. Before we get started, I wanted to acknowledge that Small Business BC is situated on traditional, ancestral, and unceded Coast Salish territories, and we wish to respectfully acknowledge the homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. A couple of housekeeping announcements as well. For audio, we do recommend in-ear headphones connected directly to your computer or device for the best audio quality. For handouts, we do have one handout available, which I'll be uploading into our chat for you to download in case you miss it during our live webinar. And we'll also share these handouts with you in our post-session follow-up email today. For your questions, we welcome you to type in to our chat anytime during the presentation. We'll also reserve some time for Q&A at the end of the presentation. And during that time, you can also unmute your mic to ask your questions. And lastly, today's live webinar is recorded. We'll be sending a follow-up email after containing a recording link in case you'd like to rewatch the content on your own time for the next 7 days. And in terms of feedback, we do have a feedback link as well. Please do fill in your feedback form as we're always looking to improve our education. So any feedback is appreciated. So without further ado, I'd like to get our presentation started and invite our speaker, Bridget, to take it from here.
Thank you, Connie. Welcome, everybody, and good morning. My name is Bridget Field, and I'm the Client Services Manager here at Small Business BC. And I also manage the team for the Workplace Accessibility Grant. So welcome to our session. I'm going to talk today about, give you sort of a grant overview, what the grant is all about, how it works, eligibility criteria, and we'll go through the step by step for how to apply and what is covered under the grant. So that's sort of our agenda for today, and we'll have lots of time for questions and answers at the end. So I would really encourage you to ask your questions as we go along and also at the end. So Small Business BC is very happy to be working in partnership with President's Group to promote workplace accessibility and with funding provided by the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction for this grant. Just to give you an overview of the grant itself, I just want to talk a little bit about what the Workplace Accessibility Grant Program is. It is to provide supports to small business employers, and small business employers are defined as businesses with 1 to 50 employees in British Columbia, and these are direct financial assistance towards creating an inclusive workplace for persons with disabilities. So to provide a grant for costs incurred for projects that you would be doing to improve creating inclusive workplaces and removing barriers for persons with disabilities. The maximum allowable grant for your project is $1,000 per business. Okay, so you could be an owner of more than one business, so each business can apply for a $1,000 grant. And by grant, it really is a reimbursement for purchases made to help cover the costs incurred for an approved project or purchase. Okay, so and it has to directly improve or remove barriers to make the workplace more accessible for persons with disabilities. So that encompasses actually a lot of things. So there is a very detailed list of eligible projects and covered services and products that you could be purchasing, and how it is addressed by eliminating a certain type of barrier. So we'll get into that in a little bit more detail in a couple of minutes, just because it's a very long list. So I'll show you where you can find out what all those various projects are. So although we started or launched the grant on June 21st, if there was a project that you did, as long as it was after the receipt was actually, the costs were incurred April 1st or after of this year, you can submit that receipt if it's an eligible project. So it may be something that you've already done in your business. You can definitely apply for the grant under those circumstances. So again, the maximum allowable under the grant is $1,000. Your project may be more than that. So you may spend $2,500, let's say, installing wheelchair ramp at your place of employment. So it is up to $1,000 of that to cover that cost. So $1,000 of the $2,500 in that case. So when I say $1,000 per business, you may have a smaller project or purchase that you may say it was $300. You would basically still have up to $700 to claim at a later date for a later project. So again, with your application, we're tracking how much you've spent of the grant allowable amount as your receipts come in for reimbursement. So if you do have smaller projects, less than $1,000, and then you have something later on the year, for example, you can apply for that $1,000. So just the key thing to remember is it's $1,000 per business. So the all-important question that we get is, what's the program eligibility? And actually, it's quite open. So the grant program is available for, and you'll notice it here in bold, registered BC companies. So that would be a registered sole proprietorship, a general partnership, a corporation or nonprofit society. And then there is that eligibility for size of business based on employees. So 1 to 50 employees. And just as a reminder that is both part and full-time, and including yourself if you're an owner-operated sole proprietorship. And the registered piece is really important because we do have a lot of entrepreneurs that are self-employed or freelancers, and they're self-employed under their own name without a registered company. So you do have to be a registered company. So you have to be registered with BC Registries. And we can also assist you with that. So you are eligible for the grant once you are a registered business. So it is something you can do as a self-employed individual, is to register a sole proprietorship, and then you would be eligible to apply. So that's just a little note for the self-employed that might be participating in the webinar today. Just give us a call here at Small Business BC, and we can help you walk you through the process of getting registered. I know it's a little confusing sometimes for small business owners because they have a lot of numbers attached to their company. You have a business license number, you have a Canada Revenue Agency account number, a GST number, a PST number. What we're looking for here, and I'll show you where you can find it if you don't know what your company registration number is with BC Registries, we can do a lookup in orgbook.com. So if you don't know what your number is, that's perfectly fine. We can help you try and find it. So the business must be based in BC. So this is a BC grant and must be operating in BC and registered in BC at the time of submission. And you will have to provide some general information, the name of the business, the owner. The owner is the applicant, so you can't have somebody apply on your behalf, like another organization or a consultant or anything like that. So it has to be you are the applicant, your BC registration number, and your banking information, because the funds will be released to you through an EFT, an electronic funds transfer. We use a program called SparkPay. It's very secure, so you have to sign up for a SparkPay account to get the funds distributed to you. That's kind of it for the program eligibility. There's project eligibility as well, or purchase eligibility. So we can talk about like what would be eligible things and what kinds of receipts that you're going to have to provide for us. So the application process is pretty straightforward. It is a 4-step process, essentially. And the first step is really to visit the application page, which we're going to look at in a couple of minutes. I do recommend that you review the eligible covered services to make sure that your purchase, your project is covered and is addressing an appropriate barrier. And all that information is on the page. So you want to visit there, check out the accessibility, grant itself, and what the eligible covered services, so you can prepare yourself to create an account and apply, which is step 2. So this is where you're going to register for the grant using the online form. It's a really straightforward online form. You fill out all the information, providing your business details. And there's some mandatory things that you have to include in that initial online application. And that's what your proposed project is, a description of that, your company registration number, your contact information. And that's going to create an account in our system so that the team can review your project details. You can also, if you have your receipt available because you've already made the purchase, or you've done the work, on or after April 1st, you can put that all through in your initial application. If you don't have your receipts ready, but you have your project in mind and you want to apply for the grant and get your application account set up, you can certainly do that without your receipt at this point. We will contact you. We'll just review your project, and we'll say we've reviewed your project. We're looking forward to getting your receipts. You'll get a link to provide your receipts and reminders to provide the receipts when the work is done or the project is complete. And then that receipt needs to show us the proof of payment. It can't be a quote or an invoice only. So if you're thinking about getting some consulting services to make things more accessible in your workplace, if you get just a quote from a service provider, that is not enough. We need to see that the quote or the invoice has been paid. So that is pretty straightforward. We need to know that the work or the consulting has occurred, and that it has been paid for before we're able to disperse funds. So again, you can create an account without having your receipts ready. You can always upload those later. Once we have your receipts and once we approve your project and the purchases, we'll send you an email to please create a SparkPay account. And that's where you will upload a canceled check for your business bank account. And that provides us a way to disperse the funds to you directly into your bank account. So pretty straightforward. And again, there's communication. Once you create your account or register for the grant through our online form, you'll be getting ongoing communication and reminders from us. Sometimes a phone call if we need to call you for clarification, but most of our communication is via email. I will talk a little bit about when we get into the application, how important it is to communicate to us through that channel. So business owners often have many email addresses. So we just will want to keep the email thread going and keep your account alive. So that initial email, choose an email that is the best one for us to contact you on a regular basis. So what can the grant be used for? So we actually have and let me make sure I've got this right. We actually have 6 different categories of barriers that can be addressed. So the really obvious one is something environmental in your workplace, where you can install a ramp or better lighting levels or more accessible washrooms or any kind of adaptation. So where we're talking about sort of physical equipment, that's an environmental barrier that can be addressed. But it can also be something more like attitudes or practices and policies. So if you're needing to get some consulting advice to revise your policies, to provide training for your staff, to make your workplace more accessible, there's a whole variety of different things within each of these categories. So there is a very detailed list that we're going to take a look at, but hopefully this will give you an idea of the 6 barriers that we're looking to address with your project. 2 more are information and communication. So this would be being able to provide ASL versions of policies, screen readers, reprinting of hard copies, Braille versions of documents, updating web pages for accessibility on your website. So you provide a whole variety of different ways to make your website more accessible. And then there's technology. So this would be the purchase of software. It could be potentially, we did have an application for this, flashing fire alarms for persons that are deaf, any kind of specialized headsets. And again, we're looking more here at technology from an equipment perspective versus information and communication, which is a little bit different. And so oftentimes people will get these two barriers confused, and it doesn't really matter. When you do your application, you're going to select one of the barriers that you're wanting to address for your project. And sometimes the information technology and communications kind of get a little bit blurred, and that's perfectly fine. Don't worry about that. Check the one that you think it most addresses. Okay, so I'm going to take us off now to the application page, the information and application page. But before I do that, maybe I'll just ask, is there any questions so far? I'm throwing a lot of information at you this morning, and I just want to make sure that I haven't missed the mark on anything really obvious before we go and take a look at the eligible covered services and the application page. Yeah, so one of the questions that we got was, can this be used for a sit-stand desk for an employee? Yes, that is one of the equipment pieces. But again, and this is a really important piece, and I'm so glad that you asked this, Joe, you have to relate how that makes the workplace more accessible for an employee with a disability. So, that could be someone who was injured or has back issues. So it can be a variety of different things, and we don't need people's personal medical histories or anything like that. But if you were to put in a project and say, I just want a standing desk, I want to use the grant for a standing desk, and that's it. That's your one sentence description. We do really need for you to explain to us how the barrier is addressed by making this purchase. Alrighty. So on step 4, I wasn't sure if you need to make the purchase to get the receipt before the guarantee of refund or not, reimbursement. Okay, so I guess the question that you have is really more about at what point is your project approved? You may not want to go and make the purchase if it's ineligible, and that's a really good point. So what I would recommend is you create your account, you give us your project description. The team is going to look at that project description and say, looks good, but we haven't at this point seen your purchase or receipt. So at that point, we're saying it looks like it's eligible, but when we get your receipt and you do the work, we're going to match that to what your description is. So if you said your project was to install a wheelchair ramp, and then you send a receipt that's not for that purchase, then it's a no-go. Or we're going to ask for other type of receipt or proof of purchase. So yeah, if you're wondering, is the project that I want to do eligible, definitely provide us as much detail in your project description. Our team has a step in our process where we look at that and we go, looks good, let's move to the next step. We'll communicate that to the applicant, and then we'll move you through the process. Okay, so you can be in various stages of this. You could have already done an improvement in your workplace and have a receipt and submit it. You could be wondering, oh, is my project eligible? I'm gonna create my account and apply, and then we'll communicate with you. You could be pretty sure that it's all ready to go, and you'd be submitting your project and your application and your receipt all at the same time. So you do all step 4s all at the same time. So people are in various different streams, I guess, in the application process. But like I said, there's no harm in putting in your application, and then we'll review your project. But the key here is, and a top tip that I have, is provide us with as much detail about your project as possible. That helps us to really understand how it relates to addressing barriers for employees in the workplace. So I just want to pop us off over to the page now. Thank you for your questions. Glad that I was able to clarify that. And again, if it isn't totally clear, I'm sure that we can have some more Q&A at the end of the session. So hopefully everybody can see the Workplace Accessibility Grant landing page on the Small Business BC website. So this is the place that you would go to, and the link is provided in the handouts, and you'll see that there is a description of the grant. We've sort of gone over that. Again, it's got all of the 6 barriers that can be addressed. And what is of interest here is this is where you can click in to find the full list of the eligible covered services. So by barrier, it's got a really great long list of potential, and it's not exclusive to these. You could have another idea, and this list, we're adding to it all the time. So, you know, everything from lighting to lifts to lamps to toilet grab bars under environment, and attitudes. So if the barrier is attitudes, so, you know, getting a disability consultant into your workplace, again, training to prepare for a new hire. So for hiring a person with a disability, information and communication practices, all of those different kinds of things. So you see, this is a way more extensive list than we provide on the homepage. So really recommend that you visit this to get that full list. Okay, so that's available for you. Sorry, I'm just gonna go back. Hopefully here. Sorry, my mouse is acting up, not wanting to behave. So that's sort of the description, what the grant can be used for, and basically the 4 steps that I went over, how the program works. And all of that is here. It's got the dates, everything that we talked about, the program eligibility, which we talked about as well. There's a grand list of frequently asked questions at the bottom. We're always updating these too, because we're getting new questions all the time. So you can use the frequently asked questions there as well. This tab is where you're going to apply for the grant. So this is a form that you need to fill out, and it does give you instructions. So they're basically saying, before you start, and I do recommend you kind of gather your information so that you can, you know, fill everything out. So you'll need your contact details, which you know, your legal business information, including your business registration number, and I'll show you where to find that if you don't know what that is. What your project details are. So a short sort of project description, and then those are the 3 mandatory things that you have to start your application, and the invoice or receipt of your purchased item or service. If you have that already, that's great. That's optional at this point. So if you don't have all the information at the time of your application, if you don't have the receipt, that's fine. You can still submit it, and you can provide that for us later. If you have any information, if you have any requests for information, there's 2 ways you can contact us: the accessibility grant at smallbusinessbc.ca website or email address, or you can contact us at our 1-800 number. If you're sort of here and you're going, oh, I'm not sure what to do here, sure, give us a call. We'll be happy to walk you through it. So you need to provide us with the organization's registered company name. And so that's your legal company name that you registered with the province of British Columbia. And then this is your BC registration ID number. That's a number that begins with FM, as in father, mother, and then a 6-digit number, or it could begin with BC for incorporated companies. And so it could be an S if it's a nonprofit society. So that's the number that you're looking for. But if you don't know what your company number is, if you don't have it on your original statement of registration of your certificate of incorporation or something handy like that for you, then you just click on orgbook.com right here, and you can do a search by name. Okay, and that'll come up. I'm not going to go off there because I'll show you kind of what it looks like in another part of the presentation. So that's a way to verify your registration number. If you go to orgbook.com, and it's not providing you with your company registration number, you can always call us here at Small Business BC. We've got kind of a back-end system where we can search as well. Sometimes, for long-standing companies that the registration is available in paper only and stuff like that. Sometimes orgbook.com isn't picking it up for you. We'll be happy to try and find it for you. Okay, so this is not your GST registration number. This is not your Canada Revenue Agency number. This isn't your business license number. This is your BC Business Registry's registration number. Okay, so I know it is confusing because businesses do have a lot of accounts attached to them and numbers. So this is what we're looking for, and this is the place you can find it if you don't know it. So then we just need your address. So everything that has a red asterisk is a mandatory field. And again, I just want to remind that this email is your primary business email that you want us to be contacting you at, because we're going to create an account with you and an email trail, and we're going to be sending you links requesting your receipt or other information. And we want to keep that communication flow within one email. If you respond to us outside of that email communication, then it just becomes a little bit disjointed. So choose an email that's a good one that you're checking on a regular basis. I will say that email communication, for the most part, is pretty good, but sometimes it will land in your spam folder. So if you're expecting something from us and you don't find it, please do check in your junk folder, and it'll be from this email address, accessibilitygrant@smallbusinessbc.ca. So that's the communications piece of that. So you'll be asked, what industry sector you're in. If you're not in any of the ones that are listed here, these are standard industry classification codes. Just select other. And what type of company or business you are. So most, like 99.9% of you, are going to be a private business or not-for-profit. Public entities, not likely. So we just want to know that whether you're a private for-profit business or a not-for-profit business. And then we want you to talk about the number of employees you have, full and part-time. And again, just a reminder that it's for between 1 and 50 employees. And then a contact person, so the applicant's first name and last name. And this is ideal if it's the business owner or designate, because this is someone that we're going to be contacting on a regular basis as we go through the application process. This is where you're going to provide your project details next. So again, it's always giving you the FAQ link if you need to go and visit that, the full list of eligible covered services. So we want you, in your own words, to give us a project goal and description. You do need to select the type of barrier that is addressed. And again, if you're not sure, select the one that you think most matches what your project is. In this project goal and description, the Workplace Accessibility Grant team is really looking for a description of what your purchase is and how it's going to address that barrier in the workplace and make it more accessible for persons with disabilities. So since the start of the program, that is the most common clarification that we've had to go back to business owners who've applied to ask them, don't just tell us what the purchase is, tell us how it's addressing the workplace barrier. Okay, that's a really important piece. And if you miss it, we'll contact you and we'll ask you to give us clarification. But just to, for ease of application, just let us know what that project description is with as much detail. You don't have to write a novel. You can probably give it to us in a paragraph or two. One line is probably not enough information for us to assess whether it's eligible or not. And then, of course, it will ask you, do you now have the receipt ready for submission for payment? If you say yes, it is going to ask you to upload them, and it'll give you what the receipt should include, and you can upload multiple receipts. Your project may have made purchases. You may need to have made purchases from multiple vendors. So you could have multiple receipts, especially if you're building something like a wheelchair ramp or something like that. You could be making purchases from Home Depot. You could also have like labor costs for the installation. So you could have multiple receipts. The combination, the total of your receipts might be in excess of $1,000, and that's perfectly fine. We're only going to pay or disperse funds up to $1,000, but we need to see all of the paid receipts, don't just cut it off at $1,000. So if your project was $2,500, just provide us with all of the receipts so that we can see, okay, this total project and $1,000 of it is what is going to be reimbursed. Okay, so you can upload multiple receipts. So these are paid receipts that we're looking for. If you have a situation where the quote or the invoice is on one document and then the paid receipt is on another, provide us with both of those, because sometimes the paid receipt just has like the last 4 digits of the credit card information and says that it's paid, their service provider's name on it. That's perfectly fine, but we don't necessarily know what that paid receipt relates to. So we do need that description on a quote or the invoice, the original invoice that you got from your vendor. That's it. If you select no, I don't have my receipts yet, you can still submit your application. You just so, nope, I don't have it yet. What it'll ask you next to do is just to provide a disclaimer that you understand that you're participating in the grant application and personal information collected is protected and all of those different kinds of things. And then you just say yes or no to agree with the disclaimer. There's only agreed. you can't move forward if you don't agree to the disclaimer. So there's really just one option there. And then we do also ask you if you would like to receive Small Business BC newsletters if you're not currently doing that. This is not a mandatory thing. We just want to know yes or no. Highly recommend though, because that's where you're going to get updates on lots of great programming that's going on all the time. So if you don't already get the Small Business BC e-newsletter, I'll just give a little plug right now. Lots of great content for great programs like Accessibility Month at Small Business BC and a whole variety of other different kinds of things. So that's the application form. I mean, it shouldn't take you too long to fill out. It's pretty straightforward and simple. What happens is when you click submit, it's going to go to our team. Your account will be created. The system automatically checks your business registration number to ensure that it is valid. It checks it against Orgbook, and then you'll get a confirmation email that says that we have received your application. And then our team is going to review your project. We're going to review receipts if they've been submitted. And if all four things are there, we're going to push it through for payment. And that's pretty much it. The only other kind of communication would be if we needed verification or clarification. If receipts aren't attached, you'll get reminders. You'll be asked to create your SparkPay account so that we can pay you. And again, that email stream is really the best way for you to continue communications with you. We'll find you if you don't. We'll give you a call, or we'll make sure that you're getting the communications, not to worry. But there's just a little tip there. So that's really the application process. I'm going to talk a little bit now before the Q&A, just to help what we've found so far, this far into the program, just some really, hopefully will be great top tips for a successful application for you. And I hope that'll be a helpful piece of information. So before you start, collect what you will need. So your contact details, your legal business information, your company registration number. And like I said, you can search that in orgbook.com. Your project details, a short description. And again, I've underlined this because it is important. How does it address the barriers for persons with disabilities in the workplace? And those are the three required things. And then again, your invoice or receipt can be submitted later. If you don't have all the information at the time of application, you can still create that account. Okay, I would say go ahead and do that. Submit your application and we will review your project. And we will communicate with you if we need more clarification, or if it is not eligible, we will let you know that right away. One of the common questions that we get asked is, if it's ineligible, can I submit a different project? Absolutely, yes. So remember, it's up to $1,000 per business. And if you're the first thing that you submitted was, and I'll give you an example of something that we would deem ineligible. Some folks misunderstood that this was a COVID recovery grant, because there have been a lot of those kinds of programs available for small businesses. And so it would be something that would be more like looking for $1,000 for financial recovery as a result of the COVID pandemic. That's not an eligible project for this grant. Okay, so we would just automatically communicate to you this is an ineligible, and you are welcome to apply with an eligible project. And we just ask people to review the eligibility criteria and what the grant is for at that point, and we invite you to apply again. We don't have too many of those where we outright say ineligible, so not to worry too much about that. You will have the opportunity to provide additional details or receipts later, but I will say that grant applications with all four items provided, including the receipt, the paid receipt, will get expedited. So those will move through the system pretty quickly, and funds will be dispersed within 30 days. So that is currently what our timelines are. But again, not to worry if you don't have that fourth piece, that receipt. And again, just a reminder about all of the communication. You will be contacted via email only at the email address that you provided with us. So please respond to those email communications from Accessibility Grant at Small Business PC using that same thread. Don't create a new thread. It's just going to be hard for us to do that. When you get instructions or requests from us, there will be links provided to respond to those requests. So we'll say, we need you to upload your receipt here. Click there. Or we need you to sign up for SparkPay through this link. Click onto that link and it'll take you through the process. So for example, if you don't use the link and you just attach your receipt or your canceled check to the email and send it back to us, we're going to have to send it back to you and ask you to do it in the link. So it just gets into our system in a really efficient way that way. So hopefully our instructions are clear, just to ease the process for you, because you're all busy business owners. We don't want this to be onerous in any way, but just those are just some tips. Don't ignore the links that are provided. That's where you're going to be able to upload anything that we might be requesting. And the receipts themselves, and this is on the webpage, but just to let everybody know, the dates of the purchase cannot be earlier than April 1st of this year to be eligible. It should be clear from the receipt what has been purchased, and it must contain the retailer's or the seller's name and address. So we need to have the vendor on there. The receipts of your projects may total more than 1,000 and they should be submitted in full, but just a reminder, they will only be maximum payable up to 1,000. And there's a variety of different formats that you can upload the receipts, including a screenshot on your phone. So there's a few formats, PDF or Word doc, that you can upload those documents on. That's everything that I have. I am more than happy to respond to questions now for the rest of the time that we have together. So if you want to type those into our chat, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. So Fernando made a comment about the grant being eligible without any kind of revenue requirement. There is no revenue requirement for you to be eligible. You just have to be a registered company in BC. There is no requirement for that. And I do also invite you to unmute your mic if you want to chat with me and ask your question online here. Yeah, Fernanda, thanks for saying that. We do try to make it as simple as possible for you to apply. So I do appreciate your question or your comment that it seems complicated, these things, and we do try to make them as simple as possible. So yeah, absolutely. So I'm just scrolling up here to look at some of the questions that came in when I was chatting away. So Devin is asking us, can the grant be used toward upgrading multi-purpose hardware, computer, iPad, etc., which is not only focused on accessibility? So there has to be a component of it. So we have had some applications that have come in where they've done website upgrade or software upgrade, and then there's a receipt for $4,500. And I'm not seeing that there's anything in that project description or on the invoice that it's any software that's like Accessibility, which we have on the Small Business BC website. You might want to check that out just to see how that all works. So it has to be directly related again. So if you're just upgrading, all round upgrade, no. If you're purchasing software or you're upgrading to make your website more accessible for persons with disability, then yes. So if it's a combo upgrade you're doing, so you're doing some things that would be an upgrade to your website or something that you would be doing or equipment that you would be buying, a component of it, yes, definitely. If you're doing a bigger project, right, or you're making bigger purchases, we want to see what portion of that is to improve accessibility for entrepreneurs or for employees with disabilities. And again, what I would say, Devin, is if you're not sure, do the application, provide us with details of your project, and we'll review it, and then we'll let you know. Does that answer your question? Yeah, I'm sorry. It's a little bit like, we have to like look at your description. And I can't say specifically because there's just so many, as you saw, the list of eligible things that can be covered. So yeah, we have to look at it on a case by case basis. But I really do encourage you to submit an application, especially if you're not sure. If you do call us and ask us, again, we're probably going to say, we think so, but put in the application so that we have all the information in front of us and then we can make a determination. I think that's probably the best way to go about it. What other questions do participants today have? Well, just as you're thinking about that, I will just go and advance to our final slide, which has all of our contact information on it. Sometimes you need to go away and digest, and you might have some more questions for us. Is this for me? Or maybe you know another business owner that wants to do a project and you want to refer them. Please pass the word along. We want to get information out about it as much as possible. Connie is just suggesting we go over the FAQ, so we will do that. But all of our contact information, both our phone line, local, and our toll-free, and our teletype, and our email address is on the last slide in your package today. So I am going to go over the FAQs because it'll spark, some questions that you might have in mind that I maybe am so into the program that I don't even think about anymore. But as someone who's new to the information, we can sort of talk about some of those. So you do have the contact information. So if you have any questions, you should contact, and that's our contact information there, but it's also here on the FAQs. Again, what products and services can be covered. So we have the general, and then there's lots of links here for that detailed thing, the detailed list. How long will the program run? That's a really good question. Again, the funding is available until April 30th of next year or until funds are fully allocated. We're going at a pretty good pace right now to be able to fulfill any applications that are coming in. And so again, like I mentioned, if you have a smaller project now and then one later in the year, you should have access to funds up to $1,000. So I don't know if additional funds will be released if we don't use them all by April 30th. That is something that is often determined at the end of one of these programs. We do often get this question, is the $1,000 of project services available inclusive of GST? It is inclusive of all eligible taxes. Okay, so any amount over $1,000 is to be covered by the business. We're just dispersing up to $1,000 per business. What should the receipt include? We've gone over this I think in quite a bit of detail. So, there's lots of reminders about what needs to be included on the receipt. But again, if there's anything missing, we will contact you. Can you submit a receipt for something that you did earlier in the year, say back in January? There was a project that was ideal for this that you made a purchase for. Unfortunately, because the program started April 1st, we can't provide any or accept any applications for purchases made before the cutoff date of April 1st. We do get asked frequently if you have to work with preferred vendors or retailers to make your purchases, and the answer is no. You can use whoever you want. You can purchase from Amazon, you can purchase from Home Depot, you can purchase from London Drugs, as long as their name and address is on the receipt. And you have a paid receipt from them. That's all that we need. And we don't provide a list of providers for these services because there's so many of them. We don't endorse one provider over the other. But I mean, there's lots of Google searches you can do, specifically if you're looking for consultants within the accessibility world, where you might be able to find a professional who could help you with some things. So we don't provide a list of providers, but if you want some ideas about where you could search for some of those providers, we can certainly help you with that. The application form is online and is a button here again, so we make it really easy for you to access this. Your business registration number. So I'm glad that we've done this. So this is sort of what the org page will look like, orgbook.com, when you do a search. So if you don't know what your company's registration number is, you can go to orgbook.com, and this is how it comes up. And the green highlighted area is where the registration ID, that's the bingo number we're looking for. Okay. And it will start with a prefix. It'll be like, BC, FM, CP. There's all the different prefixes that it could be started with. And then that's the number that you're looking for. So it'll say the registration type, like if you're a sole proprietor or a corporation, but it is that registration number that is highlighted in green on this page that we're looking for. And this is just an internet accessible search page. So it's this number that we're looking for right here. Okay, so it's just a public directory that you can search.
So we had a question from the attendees. Is the BC registration number the same as the business number?
It is not. I think by business number, or BN as we call it, or CRA BN or GST number is a totally different thing. BC business registration number is when you registered your company with the province of British Columbia. So that would be when you did the name application and then you got approval for the name and you registered your company. So that usually refreshes people's minds about which number we're talking about here. The BC business registration number is a provincial registration number. Your business number or your CRA BN or whatever your GST number is a federal government account that you have with Canada Revenue Agency for your GST account and your corporate tax account, and it also covers import-export licenses and things like that. So it's a totally different thing. One is the BC business registration number is your company structure that you've decided to operate under and that you've registered with the province of BC. And an individual person who's self-employed can have a Canada Revenue Agency business number and not have a BC registration number. So you can't substitute the business number from Canada Revenue Agency for your BC registration number. And I'm sorry if that's super confusing, but they're different registrations, different accounts. And I know for a lot of grant applications or other things that you would be applying for, they do ask for that Canada Revenue Agency business number. So that is a common thing that they're asking for, but that's not what we're looking for here. You don't even need to be registered for GST to participate in this program. Is that clear as mud, Devin? Sorry. They aren't the same thing. But again, if you're struggling, we'll help you find that number. It's just a number that we need for the program. And the team here at Small Business BC can help you find it if you are not fortunate if you're not lucky in finding it in orgbook.com. The interface should work. You should find it if your company's registered. And so sometimes business owners don't realize that they don't have a BC registered company. They have a GST number or a business number from Canada Revenue Agency and a business license, and that's perfectly acceptable. You can be self-employed under your own name in the province of British Columbia, but you can't be self-employed under your own name to apply for this program. You do have to have a registered company with BC. So that is what that screen will look like, and this is the number that you're looking for right here. So this question, can I submit quotes, estimates, or other documents for items if the item has not yet been purchased? So we don't need to see your quote or your receipt until you're ready to submit. We can't approve on a quote, as I said. If you want to include that as part of, like, this is what we're thinking of doing to support your project description, we'll certainly take a look at that, but we can't disperse the funds based on the quote only. We do need that receipt. If it helps illuminate what your project's about, we're happy to take a look at it. You don't have to send us photographs. We have had some applicants provide us with lovely photographs of their projects upon completion. We don't need any kind of evidence of that. We don't need any other supporting documents unless we ask for them. But for the most part, it's a detailed invoice or receipt indicating that it's paid. That's what we need to have. And how do I submit my receipts? You can upload them through the links provided or at the time of application. So we looked at where you would upload those as well. And this is the all-important question. How do I receive my payment? Which I upload my receipt and it's approved. You do have to register for a Spark Pay account, and that's where you're going to get your electronic funds transferred into your business bank account. You may have already got a Spark Pay account because you have got a recovery grant or something like that, other previous grant programs. So you may not have to register for a new one if you already have an account. You may not remember if you have one or not, but you only have to register for a Spark Pay account once. And how long will it take? So our goal is to transfer those funds to you 30 business days from submission of your receipt. And that'll be based on business volumes as the project gets more applications and we get busier, but that's our goal. And right now we're definitely hitting that. And then, of course, if you're looking for additional information about accessibility legislation in BC or any other information, there's this great link here as well. One of the things that is not covered, and we have had this question before, and it's not in the FAQs. If you're making the workplace accessible for a new hire who is a person with a disability, and you're making improvements in the workplace, that's covered. But the person that you're hiring, their salary isn't covered. So it's not a wage subsidy program, just so that folks know that. And it's great that you're wanting, and there's various persons with disabilities hiring programs through Work BC and things like that. That's not specifically what this is for. This isn't for covering wages to hire a person with disability. There are other programs for that. But if you're making your workplace accessible for that new hire or others in your workplace, that's exactly what the Workplace Accessibility Grant is for. Thanks, Fernanda. That's a really great question. All of the grants, okay, so there's a couple of different sources. CanadaBusiness.ca is a database of over 1,000 now, provincial and federal government programs. They're not all grants, they're loan programs and various funding programs targeted at specific industries and specific needs and things like that. And that's a great database. Just for financing or funding pathfinding, that's a really good place to start. And you can set parameters around your search so you don't have to look through 1,000 programs around your province, what type of funding that you're looking for. If you're only looking for grants, if you're also interested in loan programs and things like that. And this is across anything for your business, right? So it could be startup financing, it could be for environmental improvements that you would be making in your business, a whole variety of different kinds of things, wage subsidy programs, everything is in there. So you can take a look in there. That's a really good starting point for sure. If you're looking for specific COVID programming and what's available through that, there is the covid.smallbusinessbc.ca website. So you have to put the COVID dot in front of our regular, but there's lots of links from our regular Small Business BC website. So that is a list of all of the programming, both federal, provincial, and municipal that have come out as part of COVID recovery. So all of the programs, whether they're still accepting eligibility or they're still accepting applications or not, are all there. So there's lots of great information on there too. So those are two good places to go. You can also contact us at our main phone line if you have any questions about any of the financing or funding or granting programs that are out there. We'd be happy to answer your questions. Just our business advisors who are answering the phone can help navigate that for you as well. In other parts of what we do here at Small Business BC, we do partner with lenders. So we can often help you find good financing solutions. So yeah, that's, the high level on where you can find programming and possible financing, grants, loans, and things like that for your business all around. All great questions. Is there anything else before we wrap up? Alrighty. Well, just as I say thank you to everybody for your participation, I will leave up our contact slide here. I do encourage you to contact us if you have any questions. Go online and do your application today if you're interested. And I want to thank our interpreters today. Thank you very much. And for everybody who participated, and the education team here at Small Business BC for putting this together, and Connie for monitoring us today. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Bridget. And I also wanted just to pop back on and share that we will be sending a recording link with you all, and you will have 7 days to review the content as many times as you like. In the follow-up email, I'll also include our Accessibility Month feedback link. Any feedback is appreciated if you let us know how we did, what you liked and what you didn't like. Normally what we do is we use the feedback to improve on our future sessions. So if you can fill that in, that would be awesome. And thank you all again for attending. Bye, everyone.
Bye for now.